Hello there. My name is Aisha. I'm Indian American and I'm 30 years old. Anyone born from immigrant parents will tell you that they've had their fair earfuls of how hard it was to move to America to seek a better life. Sometimes they didn't even have to tell you. You could just see how much they struggled. And I was so grateful for all that my parents had to sacrifice. My dad became a successful businessman, defying all odds that were stacked against him as a first-generation Indian immigrant. He did everything he could to provide for his family, and I know that he's in heaven smiling down at me for all that I'm trying to accomplish. I decided that I'd continue to live in the house that he bought with his blood, sweat, and tears, hopefully improving upon it more and more and passing it down to the generations after me. I just know that your father is smiling at you with joy. He'd be so proud of you, especially with the way you take care of me. Mom, you don't have to say all that. I'm just doing my job to take care of you. Now, we both know that I can't afford to live on my own. You just want me here. To keep an eye on you, of course. Who knows what type of trouble you'd get up to if you didn't have me around to watch you. Living in a joint family has always been a deeply ingrained part of our Indian culture. The idea of multiple generations residing together under one roof, sharing their lives and responsibilities, is considered not only normal, but also a way to maintain strong family bonds. However, when I married Harold, an American man, I knew that our cultural differences might present some challenges, particularly when it came to the concept of living with parents. Harold was raised in a culture where young adults typically leave their parents' home at the age of 18, seeking independence and starting their own lives. So it wasn't surprising that he found it somewhat uncomfortable to live with my mother, Priya, in the same house. Initially, Harold seemed to handle the situation quite well, embracing the new experience and accepting the dynamics of our joint family. I appreciated his efforts to adapt to our traditions and respect our way of life. However, as the years passed and our marriage matured, Harold's patience began to wear thin. He started expressing his dissatisfaction with the living arrangement, feeling that it hindered our freedom and limited our privacy as a couple. While I understood his perspective, I struggled with the conflict between my cultural upbringing and the desires of my husband. Adding to our challenges was the fact that we were unable to conceive children due to my infertility. This became a significant point of contention between us, causing deep emotional wounds and almost leading us to the brink of divorce. But that's a story for another day. Fortunately, we found our way back to each other, rediscovering the love and commitment that had brought us together in the first place. We decided to embrace our unique path and focus on building a fulfilling life together, despite the absence of children. With our newfound freedom from parenting responsibilities, Harold gravitated towards a more carefree lifestyle. He indulged in his hobbies, buying video games, and spending late nights at clubs, and enjoying the liberties that most parents wouldn't have the luxury of experiencing. While I supported his pursuit of personal happiness, I couldn't help but feel a sense of longing for the life we had once envisioned together. Little did I know that the next chapter of our story would bring unexpected twists and turns, testing our resilience and forcing us to confront the complex dynamics of our relationship. But for now, I hold on to the hope that love, understanding, and a shared vision for the future will guide us through these challenges and help us forge a stronger bond as husband and wife. Harold and I had come a long way in our marriage, but lately I couldn't help but notice a growing frustration within me. It seemed as though Harold's playful and carefree nature was starting to cross the line into childishness, and it was becoming harder for me to ignore. One evening, as we sat in our living room, I mustered the courage to address my concerns. Looking directly into Harold's eyes, I said, "Harold, we need to talk. I feel like you've been acting more and more like a child lately, and it's starting to affect our relationship." Harold, caught off guard by my straightforwardness, responded defensively. "What do you mean? I'm just enjoying my life. We don't have kids, so I have freedom to do whatever I want. But Harold, it's not just about having kids. Coming to terms with my infertility has been tough. We both know that, but I've accepted it. What bothers me is your resistance to embracing the responsibilities and realities of adulthood. We're living with my mother, and it's been 5 years. It shouldn't be this difficult for you to pick up after the house and take care of household chores. I compromised by living with your mom, Aisha. Isn't that enough? Why can't I have my freedom too? I want to enjoy my hobbies and have some fun. Is that too much to ask? The tension in the room was palpable. I took a deep breath, trying to maintain my composure, and said, I understand that you need your personal time and space, but there's a difference between that and completely disregarding our living situation. I thought we could find a balance, but it feels like you're retreating into a world of perpetual adolescence. You don't care about your responsibilities, and you also seem to have an issue with my mom. You're being unreasonable, Aisha. I can't be the serious adult you want me to be all the time. Maybe you're the one who needs to loosen up a little. This isn't about me being rigid or uptight, Harold. It's about finding a compromise that works for both of us. And it's not just about our living situation. It's about our future too. I mustered the courage to broach a subject that had been lingering in the background for far too long. I've mentioned adoption as an option for us, but you always avoid the conversation. It's as if you don't want children at all. But you still want to hold on to this carefree, single bachelor lifestyle, and it's getting on my nerves. It's not that I don't want kids, Aisha. It's just complicated. I don't know if I'm ready for that responsibility. Then when will you be ready? I don't know. We're getting older, Harold. I don't want to adopt a kid when I'm 40. I want to be in their lives for as long as possible. And I want them to spend lots of time with their grandma. And what's with the sudden change of heart, huh? We were ready to have kids 4 years ago, but now you're not ready? 4 years is a long time, babe. My mind has changed. I know that I want to have kids, but just now, Harold, we're a team. We need to face these conversations head on and find common ground. Ignoring them won't make the issue go away. We can't keep living in this limbo where you want to be a perpetual child and I long for a family. Silence enveloped the room as our words hung in the air, carrying the weight of unspoken desires and unmet expectations. It was clear that we had reached a crossroads, a pivotal moment in our relationship that would shape our future. But suddenly he responded passive-aggressively. There are already enough people in this household. What with your mother living with us and all, I think we're fine. I'm getting fed up with your attitude, Harold. Why can't you accept that my mom lives with us and she's going to live with us until the day she dies? Then, until then, I'll do whatever I want. As I looked into Harold's eyes, I couldn't help but wonder if our love was strong enough to bridge this divide. But with answers like those, I was beginning to doubt everything. One day, I came home after a long day at work, hoping for a quiet evening with Harold. As I stepped through the front door, I was taken aback to find an unfamiliar face in our living room, and my confusion grew with each passing second. Oh, hey, babe. How's your day? It was fine, thanks. Oh, don't be surprised. This is Jackie. She's an interior designer. We've been talking all day about designs. I quickly pulled Harold aside, my voice tinged with frustration. Harold, what's going on? Why is there an interior designer in our house? Harold seemed unfazed by my reaction, his casual demeanor only adding fuel to the fire. Oh, I hired her because I wanted to design my game room. I thought it would be a great addition to the house. I felt my eyebrows furrow in disbelief. A game room? We had never discussed anything of the sort. The thought that Harold made this decision without consulting me felt like a betrayal of our partnership. Harold, this is our home. We should be making decisions like this together. You can't just go ahead and hire an interior designer without even discussing it with me. Harold shrugged. his nonchalant attitude making me even angrier. It's not a big deal, Aisha. I'm using my own money and it's not like it's a major renovation. I was thinking of converting Priya's room into my game room. My anger reached its peak and I could feel my face turning red. How could he so casually dismiss the fact that he wanted to take away my mother's space? It was her home too. Harold, this is my mother's room. You can't just barge in and take it for your purposes. If you really wanted a man cave or whatever, why not involve a contractor so that he can build an extension of the house? Harold's face twisted with annoyance, clearly not expecting such resistance from me. Having an extension to the house wouldn't be ideal, Aisha. That would be too expensive. I just want my own space to relax and have fun. My anger boiled over, and without a second thought, I marched into the living room and firmly asked the interior designer to leave. I could feel Harold's eyes burning into me, his anger matching my own. As the tension between us escalated, we began to yell at each other. At some point, my mom emerged from her room with concern etched on her face. She had been woken up from her peaceful afternoon nap by our heated argument. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself as I explained the situation to her. Mom, Harold wants to convert your room into his game room. He didn't even bother discussing it with us, and it's breaking my heart to see him disregard our family dynamics like this. My mom's eyes welled up with tears, and she looked at me with a mix of sadness and resolve. Aisha, maybe it's time for me to move out. I don't want to be a burden to you both. My heart sank at her words. I couldn't bear the thought of my mother feeling like she had to leave her own home. I held her hand tightly and spoke with determination. No, Mom, this is your home, and you have every right to be here. Harold needs to understand and respect our family's values and traditions. We will find a way to resolve this together. Harold's anger flared up, his frustration evident in his tone. Maybe it's time for Priya to be in a retirement home. Then we can have our space and freedom and avoid such unnecessary arguments. I mean, you've seen for yourself that your mother agrees with me. His words cut through me like a knife, fueling my anger even more. How dare you suggest that, Harold? Priya is family, and she deserves our love and care. We made a commitment to each other, and part of that commitment is embracing our cultural values and supporting our loved ones. Look, babe, I get it. You have cultural values to uphold and whatnot. But this is my home, too. Correction, this is my dad's house. And if he were here, he would tell you what I'm telling you. In fact, if he were here, he'd probably smack you for all the nonsense you've been spewing. The air in the room was heavy with tension and hurtful words. Our once happy home was now filled with resentment and division. It was clear that we had reached a breaking point, and I wasn't sure if I could even repair the cracks that were forming in our relationship. We left the argument at that, without resolving anything, because we were just at such an impasse. My poor mother had to feel those awful feelings because of what my husband was planning to do. He broke her heart. And I knew at that moment that I'd never forgive him. The days that followed our explosive argument were filled with icy silence. Harold and I barely exchanged a word, each of us consumed by our resentment and hurt. Our once strong bond seemed to crumble before my eyes, and I couldn't help but feel lost and alone. Meanwhile, my mother, sensing the growing tension, began making plans to move out. She believed that her presence was causing more harm than good. But I couldn't bear the thought of her leaving. She had always been my pillar of strength, my guiding light, and I couldn't imagine my life without her. And she was only leaving because Harold made her feel uncomfortable, which was unacceptable. One sleepless night, consumed by the weight of my emotions, I found myself seeking solace in my mom's room. I quietly entered and collapsed into her arms, tears streaming down my face. The floodgates had opened, and I poured out all my fears and frustrations, seeking guidance from the one person who had always been there for me. Mom, I don't know what to do. Harold and I are falling apart and I feel so lost. We used to be so connected, so in love. But now it feels like we're strangers living under the same roof. She held me tightly, her touch offering comfort and reassurance. Sometimes in the chaos of life, we lose sight of what truly matters. But remember, love is a choice. It's not always easy and it requires effort and understanding from both parties. You and Harold have built a life together, and it can be hard witnessing it crumble around you. But at the end of the day, you must always stay true to your heart. What is your heart telling you, baby? Her words resonated deep within me, and as I wiped away my tears, determination welled up inside. I knew what I had to do, and it wasn't going to be easy. The next day, after coming home from work, I found Harold at the breakfast nook reading, and I slammed down some documents in front of Harold. What's all this? These are divorce papers. He almost spit out his coffee. I stared at Harold, my heart heavy with a mixture of sorrow and resolve. I had reached my breaking point, and though it pained me to do so, I knew that presenting him with divorce papers was the only way forward. Harold, this is not an impulsive decision. It's something I thought long and hard about. We've grown apart, and our differences have become too vast to bridge. It's time for us to part ways. Harold's eyes widened in confusion and fear. The reality of losing me and the comfortable life we had built together struck him like a lightning bolt. Aisha, please, we can work this out. I don't want to lose you, our life together. What will I do without you? Tears welled up in my eyes as his words echoed in my ears. But deep down, I knew that staying in a loveless, toxic relationship was not the answer. I had to be strong for both of us. Harold, we've tried. We've tried so hard, but we're only hurting each other by staying together. We deserve to find happiness, even if it means going our separate ways. Harold's initial confusion quickly transformed into anger, and he lashed out at me with hurtful words and accusations. The pain in his voice was palpable, and it tore at my heart. You ungrateful woman! After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me? You're just as cold-hearted as they are. The room fell silent as a figure emerged from the shadows. It was my mother. Her eyes filled with a mix of disappointment and protective anger. Harold, your true colors are finally showing. You have no place in this household anymore. This house holds a rich history, one that Aisha's father built with love and respect. You will not tarnish that legacy with your selfishness and disregard for our family values. It's not our fault. You're a lazy, racially insensitive prick. Harold's face contorted with rage. His fists clenched in defiance, but the weight of my mom's words and the truth they held couldn't be denied. Fine, I'll leave this place, but mark my words, Aisha, I'll be back, and you'll regret this decision. With those final words, Harold stormed out of the house, leaving behind an air of tension and uncertainty. I watched him go, my heart heavy with a mix of sadness and relief. My mom, her voice filled with a mixture of sadness and strength, approached me and placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. You've made a difficult but necessary choice. We deserve happiness, and sometimes that means letting go of what no longer serves us. We will support you through this, and together we will find a way to heal. Her words provided a sense of solace and reassurance during the storm that had engulfed our lives. It was a painful moment, but it was also a turning point, a chance to rediscover ourselves and build a new future, one filled with love, support, and a renewed sense of purpose. After the divorce, life took an unexpected turn for both Harold and me. While I focused on rebuilding my life and finding my own happiness, Harold struggled to adapt to the harsh realities he had avoided for so long. One evening, as I was going about my routine, my phone rang. Reluctantly, I answered, knowing it was Harold desperately trying to mend what was broken. Harold, what do you want now? Haven't we been through enough? Harold's voice trembled with regret and longing as he finally realized the magnitude of his actions. Aisha, I made a terrible mistake. I should have appreciated you and everything you did for me. I miss our life together and I'm willing to change, to grow up. I sighed, feeling a mix of compassion and weariness. Harold's words tugged at my heart, but I knew that I had to be strong. Harold, it's too late for apologies now. I needed you to be there when it mattered, to support me and share the responsibilities of adulthood. I can't go back to a life where I'm constantly taken for granted. Harold pleaded with me, his voice filled with desperation. But I had found my strength and knew that moving forward was the only option. Aisha, please give me another chance. I'll do anything to make it right. I've learnt my lesson. Harold, it's not about just saying the right words. It's about actions. I can't keep waiting for you to change while you cling to your old ways. It's time for me to find someone who appreciates me and is willing to be an equal partner. Harold's attempts to reconcile grew more frequent. But as time went on, I realized that his longing was rooted in the comfort he lost rather than genuine personal growth. It was a painful realization, but it reinforced my decision to move on and seek a future where my efforts were valued and reciprocated. With each passing day, I focused on rebuilding my life, nurturing my dreams, and surrounding myself with people who brought joy and positivity into my world. Priya, my beautiful mother and rock, stood by my side, her unwavering support reminding me of the strength I possessed. As for Harold, I heard through the grapevine that he continued to struggle, trapped in a cycle of mediocrity. The irony was not lost on me as he toiled away in a failing video game shop, a stark contrast to the carefree life he had once envisioned, one where he was comfortable enough to threaten the comfort of my mother's living space. I couldn't help but feel a twinge of sadness for him, knowing that he had squandered a love that could have brought him happiness and fulfillment. However, I had come to realize that his journey was his alone to navigate, and it was time for me to focus on my path. In the end, the revenge I sought wasn't one of malice or cruelty. It was the revenge of self-discovery, of reclaiming my worth and refusing to settle for anything less than I deserved. And as I embraced my newfound freedom and surrounded myself with love and support, I knew my journey was just beginning.